Guys and girls, I'm back at Into Moto in Warrington and they've had another delivery. There is literally bikes everywhere. So I've done my usual, I've gone in for a look round and I've picked a bike that I've never been on before. So what is it? Let's have a look. Ta-da! So this is the Sinnis Terrain. It's a 125cc adventure bike. Now this bike's been out for ages and it has been on my list. I've seen loads of YouTubers take these bikes out on long-term loan and they've been up in the hills and they've been camping and they've been everywhere. And it's been a bike that's been a bit of a unicorn for me. I've not been able to get a ride on one until today. So I want to see what it's like. Honestly, I can't tell you how many YouTubers I've actually seen with these bikes, and they've done camping trips and they've gone on trips with them. They've done what it was intended to do. And I just want to see what it's like for a little ride around Warrington, but we'll get to that. Before we do, let's have a look around it. I'll point at some things that I like and I'll throw some specs at you the usual way. Let's have a look round. Let's go close up first of all. Now if you look at this bike, you can already see it is properly fully loaded. I mean, these bikes come with all of the luggage. I mean, they come ready, don't they? They are ready for a little bit of a trip. You've got decent rear pannier on this side. The exhaust takes a bit out of it, but you know, it's still a decent size. You can still get a fair bit in there. Left hand side, much better without that exhaust. You've got a decent bag there. You could certainly get a fair bit of clothing and whatnot in there for a trip. And a rear top box as well. I like that. Again, decent size. Certainly fit my butties in for work. And going all the way around this bike, you can see just how nice and tidy and clean it is. Just what I've come to expect really from Into Moto. It is just like a brand new motorcycle. It's quite a nice looking machine. I do like the fact it's like a shrunken down version of an adventure bike, because it's got the things you expect from the adventure bikes with your luggage. It's got not a massive screen, but it's got a decent enough screen, which should be good for a bit of wind protection. But it just looks like an adventure bike should look, just on a smaller scale. Let me just sit on it and show you what I mean. I don't normally show you me getting on a bike, and that is purely because I'm not very graceful. So me throwing my leg over a bike is usually how an old man throws his leg over a bike. There's usually a lot of noise coming out of me, but I'm going to do it today, and there's a reason for it, and that is because the bike is a shrunken down version of an adventure bike. It's not as long as your typical adventure bike. So likes of when I had my big Suzuki V-Strom with the luggage and everything on the back, you can throw your leg over, you've got loads of room. This, because it is shorter, you've still got this top box to contend with. So if you do try and get on the bike here, for instance, you're going to end up kicking that. So you've got to adapt slightly when you're getting on the bike. Show you what I mean. I can't just throw my leg over the usual way. I've got to kind of get my knee over the seat and then go over that way. So it's no mither, and it's easy enough to do, but it's not how I'd normally get on a bike. I'm just conscious of the fact that I've got this here, and if I get on the normal way, I'm just going to kick the top box. Anyway, I'm on. The standout feature for me, being 5'8" with a 29-inch inseam, is I'm small. This bike is suitable for shorter riders. You wouldn't have thought that with it being an adventure style bike. However, I'm flat foot both sides. I've got a decent bend in the knee. I don't like how my jacket keeps making me look 50 stone. The good thing is though, as I've pointed out recently with a few bikes, is when you've got a smaller bike and you're a smaller rider, it does make it easier for walking a bike. And I know it's just lazy, and loads of people will probably point out, yeah, but it's lazy, you can just push it. Yes, you can. But when I get on a bike, quite often I will park up the bike in a place and then I'll go, oh, I should have moved it somewhere else, like back a bit or forward a bit. You don't start your bike up again, do you? It's just easy to go like this, or it's easy to move it back and move it around, and it just helps, because on a tall adventure bike, when you are like a ballet dancer and you're trying to move it around, it makes it so much harder, and you don't get that on this. Pegs on this, fairly central, creates a lovely seating position. The bars are angled towards you, so for me, I'm on this bike now, I've got a nice bend in the arm, I'm not having to stretch for the bars, and I don't feel scrunched up either. They're just in a nice position for me. It makes for a comfortable ride. It means my back can be up straight, which means I'm not going to get an aching back from leaning forwards. It's my happy place as far as the position goes. Looking forward to riding this one. Getting off, again, I'll show you what I mean. If I get off the bike my usual fashion, I am going to, yes, I know people are going to be saying there's no way you get off a bike like that, but I genuinely do. Once my leg's off, I'm throwing my leg over and I'm doing that. So I'm going to kick that. So you do have to adapt slightly, squeeze your knee in to get yourself off. Told you, I've got the grace of a hippopotamus. Let's carry on looking around the bike. I like the wheels, nicely styled, look like alloy wheels. I like the exhaust, nicely styled but hidden away by the pannier. This has got a 14-litre fuel tank. The figures on this, I think official figures, it says it'll do about 86 miles per gallon. However, from a couple of reviews that I've read, obviously I'm way behind like everybody else getting one of these bikes on camera, but from the reviews I've read, there are YouTubers and bike reviewers that have claimed 100 miles per gallon. Now that means on this fuel tank you're talking 300 miles between fill-ups. That is impressive. 300 miles between fill-ups. Yeah, I mean, if you're using this for the work commute, it could be quite a money saver. I don't know why I do this to myself, always on my knees, begging for more bikes. That's probably why I do it. This 124cc engine, Sinnis, why have you done it? 11.2 horsepowers. I don't know why I said powers. It's got 11.2 horsepower. In the UK, we can have up to 15. But a lot of manufacturers out there, they sacrifice a couple of those horses for probably fuel economy, maybe emissions as well, because there's all the regulations they've got to cope with. However, at 11.2 horsepower, Sinnis claim that this bike will do 60 miles an hour for hours and hours and hours with no issues. So it does claim like a regular cruising speed at 60 miles an hour. So I'm definitely going to test that out today. I want to see what it's like at 60 miles an hour. Firstly, if it can get to 60 miles an hour, I might do a performance test. It's not something I'm overly interested in, and you shouldn't be either, because with something like this, it's not about it being the fastest bike in the world. It's about it getting to 60 miles an hour and being suitable for a bike that you can tour on, because it's kitted out for a tour. You need to be able to tour on something like this, and you need to be able to do 60. So will it do it? We'll find out on the ride. It is currently on a side stand, but it does have a centre stand. Centre stand, always good for storage and always good for chain maintenance, which is handy because this is a chain drive. Got a nice big grab handle. You've got your pegs nicely tucked away there. because it's got the top box, it's got this nice cushioned, and it is nice and cushioned, that it's nice and soft, but it's like a little backrest for any would-be passenger on the back. Now, if you are a learner rider in the UK, you can't take anybody on the back. If you're a full license holder, you can, and yeah, it'd be a comfortable place for them. Buttons. You've got your horn, your indicator, hazards, you've got high and low beam, and there's a flash. Right hand side, engine start, engine cut off. That's it. That's all you've got. That's all you need, to be fair. It is quite a basic bike, this. Now, they are cheap. And I say that because for the type of bike that you're getting, a bike that you can tour on with luggage, yeah, they're cheap motorcycles. We'll get to the price of this shortly. But let's just have a look at the screen before I do that. So you've got a nice digital display there. You've got nice prominent speedo. You've got the total miles, and you can see this is done just over 6,000 miles. A clock. There's a gear indicator. There's a nice fuel gauge there. We like that. And you've got your rev counter. Quite basic as far as the screen goes, but it's got everything that you need, nothing more. There is a USB charging port. For a bike like this, I think they're essential, and I'm glad to see it's got one. So if you are going on a bit of a tour and you're putting a sat nav or a phone mount somewhere on the bars, you can charge while you're riding. Perfect. Talking of price, this bike is currently up for sale for £2,199. I think that is an absolute steal. And I only say that because when I look at these bikes and I look at the potential that you've got with something like this, you know, this bike, it's promoting a trip. Most 125s, they're seen as town commuters or cheap and cost-effective ways of getting to and from work. Well, this isn't that. This is telling you to go for a little ride. This is telling you to take it for a trip. Throw some stuff in the bags, go for a ride, go camping, go and do something. See, even the church is recommending this one. Wait for the church bells. Divine intervention. This is made for touring. Now, if you did want to use it for work, brilliant. You've got your luggage, you've got room to put things, but I think it's for more than that. I think when I've seen those YouTubers take them on trips and they've gone camping, I think that's what it's for. That's what it's promoting. And if I was buying something like this, that's what I'd be using it for. But anyway, you've seen your look round. I've gone over the specs. The price is £2,199. Is it worth it? I think from the look round and what it comes with, I would say yeah. However, how does it ride? That's the question. Let's go for a spin. Let's see. Okie dokie. So I've just started the Sinnis. I just wanted to let you have a little listen to it first of all. So we'll give it a little bit of a rev and we'll see how it sounds. It does actually have a nice little pop to it. Give it a little bit of a rev. Sounds nice. Straight onto the cobbles. This is the thing about a bike like this. This is meant to go anywhere. So I'm not feeling any of these cobbles at all. In fact, it might as well just be a normal tarmac road. I genuinely am feeling nothing in my hands, nothing on my backside. It just feels like it's supposed to. Comfortable. Soaking the bumps up to the point of you don't feel them in the slightest. Small amount of time I've been on it already, I'm loving the fact that the seat is really comfortable. I'm loving the upright position. I'm loving the comfort, and being a smaller rider, I'm liking that I can have both feet on the floor as well. That's an added bonus. It does make you feel a little bit better when it comes to having to stop quickly or having to move the bike around. Just having both feet flat is just so much better. If you had one of these bikes, if you've got one of these bikes, Feel free to share in the comments your experience of them, because I get them for a little play and I get them to do an initial impressions ride generally, and yeah, it is nice to see how it rides and how it copes with town centre driving and riding, and we'll try a faster road. But ultimately, you know, I'm not living with it day in day out, so I'd love to hear from somebody who's got one or had one. I'm not too fussed about a performance test because I wouldn't expect this bike to be particularly quick. It certainly doesn't feel as quick as other 125s I've been on, but I do want to see if it will do 60 mile an hour, because Sinnis do make a bit of a bold claim with this bike, and it's all over their website, and that is that this bike should be able to ride all day long at 60 mile an hour, kind of making it again like a nice little touring option to take out for a bit of a holiday. So, you know, that's a good thing. But manufacturers do have a habit of over exaggerating, don't they? They do it all the time. They tell you a bike will do whatever mile an hour, but the likelihood is you can shave 5 to 10 miles an hour off that, and that's just on the displayed speed, not a GPS speed. So I just want to see displayed speed. Can we get a 60 mile an hour, and how comfortable, how long it takes to get there? Is it going to be thrashing it? Because a 125cc, you don't want to be redlining it for hours on end, which is essentially what you'd have to do with most of them to get them to 60 miles an hour. It has got 6 gears, this as well, so I'm making use of the 6 gear. I'm not keeping it in 5th and then trying to get to 60, because you can see there's a lorry in front of me. But I am picking up speed ever so slightly. I'll have to ease off. It was doing 54 miles an hour. Now 54 miles an hour on this stretch of road isn't bad for a 125. I've been on even the better performing ones, and they have struggled a little bit up here because there is a slight hill. I'm going to pull over. Again, I'm doing a performance test, right? But I'm not overly fussed about the performance on this bike. So let me just explain. If you're looking for a 125cc motorcycle, if you're looking for the fastest motorbike in the world, you're not going to go out and buy yourself a Sinnis Terrain. You're not. A Sinnis Terrain is not a sports bike. It's not meant to be sporty. It's meant to be a bike that you can go and do a tour on. It's meant to be a bike to travel on. It's meant to be a bike that's going to do distance. Now, for me, that means that it's got to be capable of doing 60 miles an hour. I'm not bothered about it getting to 60 miles an hour before the first bend, which I'd normally, I'd do on the other bikes. But I am bothered about it getting to 60. I want to see that it can do it. So again, it's not about how fast it can do it. It's just about it getting there and how comfortable it is when you get there. So that's what I'm doing. Let's go. And you can see, performance wise, I've had 125s doing 60 by now, and we're doing 52. But again, I've already explained, this isn't a bike that you would expect to have as a performance bike. It's a bike to go and do a long trip on. Now, normally a good performer would have got to 60 at this point. Now we've got a bit of a hill assist, but there's 60 miles an hour, so it does get to 60. It is trying to sneak over 60, but that is probably helped the fact that I'm going downhill slightly. But that's the point with this bike. What I want to test is at 60 mile an hour, what's the rev counter on? And at 60, let's see, we're on about 8,500 revs. So it's not quite redlining, which I think is good. but it's still very, very high up the rev range there. Would you be comfortable keeping your 125cc motorcycle on 8,500 revs for literally hours? Because that's what we're talking. If you were taking a bike on a motorway, for instance. Now, I know these are built around learner riders, and learner riders in the UK aren't allowed on motorways, so they will be able to do a national speed limit road and dual carriageways, but not many of them go for miles and miles and miles or hours without stopping. But I would have a concern as a full license holder. I would have a concern about pretty much redlining a 125cc for that length of time. It can't be doing the engine any good. So I'm not having the claim that Sinnis come out with, that these bikes can do 60 mile an hour all day. They can, like any 125cc motorcycle can, but you wouldn't. They're obviously confident that their engine can take such stresses for hours on end, and I get that. I have confidence in it, and if you've got one, let me know. But for me, I wouldn't be comfortable doing it if it was my bike. This kind of riding, your 30, 40, 50 mile an hour riding, yeah, I could do that all day, and I don't think the engine's being put under any particular stresses, because you're keeping the revs in like the 5,000-6,000 mark, so it's going to be better for it long term. I was quite impressed, even at 60 mile an hour. The wind protection, absolutely no wind whatsoever where my face was. I wasn't feeling any wind around the front of my helmet. I was getting wind in the usual places. I don't mean my arse on that, I mean my shoulders was getting a little bit of wind blowing me about a bit, but it's only a small motorcycle, so you're going to get that off any 125 regardless of wind protection, because whilst there is some, it is kind of thin, because that's the 125 thing, and that's the point of 125s. They're meant to be slim and light and nimble, aren't they? But again, do you know what? I'm amazed by that. I've just gone over a bridge there, and at the entrance to the bridge there's like a big metal strip across the floor that on any other bike you do feel it. You feel a bit of a, you know, like a thud as you go over it, like you'd expect, because it's on the floor, you're going over it, you expect to feel it. I didn't feel it at all. Didn't feel it on the front wheel or the back wheel. It just went over it like it wasn't there. And that for me is the big seller for this bike, as well as that it's all kitted out and it's ready for a tour. It's just the comfort, the sheer comfort over bumps. You can see, calling it the Terrain, it would be capable of going over a lot of bumpy ground and you would not feel it at all. It would just feel like you sat on a pillow. That's what it feels like. It's lovely. 30, 40 miles an hour, yeah, I'd be more than happy just milling about on this all day at those types of speeds. It's a really pleasant experience. From what I've been told, this has just had a fresh set of brakes put on, so yeah, the brakes are like brand new. The back brake works perfectly, so does the front. The front has that new brake kind of feel to it, so yeah, once they've bedded in it'll feel better. But that's the bonus of, I suppose, getting a used bike, but getting it from into Moto. They've actually made sure everything is working perfectly and replacing anything that needed to. So yeah, brand spanking new brakes. What you want to hear? That's what I want to hear. I want it to stop properly. That is going to do me for today. I'm a fan of the comfort on this bike. I'm a fan of how it rides. It goes through the gears really nicely. It's comfortable. It will do 60 miles an hour and beyond. However, you are taking it right up that rev range. So if you are going on a tour, for me, I would not ideally want to be sat on the motorway with something like this and be redlining it constantly. But for going on the A roads, for going on the odd national speed limit road, yeah, it's a lovely bike to ride. It's just a nice, pleasant place to be that is fully loaded and ready for a tour. So yeah, if it's a bike you're interested in, link in the description to Into Moto, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Laters.